Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Ask Nicole. I wanted to do an episode about recurring revenue products, and it was funny because I was thinking, oh yeah, I gave a presentation about that a while back. So I'm doing a slightly different style here. Well, first of all, I have a pop filter on my microphone, so you'll have to tell me if I'm sounding a little better than I normally am. But the other thing I thought I would do is, like I said, I had prepared a presentation, and I'm not one of those people, as you probably figured if you've watched this for a little bit, I don't overly rely on slides, but it is a nice tool sometimes to be able to space out at something. So I have this presentation that I did for this group that I'm in. It's queued up here. And what I'm going to do is I normally don't do slides and talking. And there's only like 8 slides here, so it's not like infinite slides. So just want to mentally prepare you that it's not going to be something that takes a long time. But I've got something coming up with the SBDC in Canton, New York. I'm also going to be working with the SBDC in Maine, offering some online programs as well. So keep an eye out for that space. Subscribe to their email updates. You can also subscribe to ours. But if you're in St. Lawrence County and Lewis County, if you're served by the SBDC in Canton, you can join these working groups for free. One of the working groups is going to be about creating a recurring revenue product. You don't need to be in the working group to be able to do this. That's why I'm recording this today. But if you're on the fence about attending the working group, this video is also for you because I'll be going over that. So that's the website with more information. Those are starting in February. Yeah, those are starting in February. That seemed far away until I really thought about what day it is today. So you can check that out for more information, but I'm just going to get this show on the road here and talk about recurring revenue products. So, by the way, if you ever need a good Google presentation template, there's all these free templates out there. This is literally a template. I kind of like the retro vibe of this. I believe it's called Themes to Go or Slides to Go. If you credit them, which I'm crediting right now, you can use their things for free. It comes with different layouts and things like that. So I just used one to do this, and I was just playing with this one. So don't want you to think I created something that I didn't there. So I've always really liked this quote that people buy 4 things and only 4 things ever. And, time, money, appreciation, and approval or peace of mind. And if you don't give them one of those things, you're not going to be able to sell it. So I don't always like to open with a quote, but sometimes it's just a good one. You just want to stick it in a presentation. So I'm going to go over examples of each one of these, by the way. But first of all, in terms of recurring revenue, what we want to think about is getting paid on a regular basis, typically a monthly basis. Like you pay Netflix on a monthly basis, or you pay, I don't know, you pay lots of things on a monthly basis, your rent, your bills. But having a recurring revenue product means that you're getting paid by your customers once a week, once a month, once every period of time. So there are 5 things we can think about with recurring revenue products. One of them is by selling products. So for example, like a subscription box, that's a physical product that is sent on a regular basis. So up until recently, I was getting my niece these subscription boxes because her birthday's in December and she likes to get mail. So what I thought I would do is for her birthday gift is that I would send her a subscription box, and that way she would get something throughout the year and not just a bunch of things at Christmas. And plus she likes getting mail. So win-win. And then, you can do something of the month. I got my mom, she's super Catholic, so I got her a Saint of the Month club. I don't necessarily recommend that particular product, but I thought that it was kind of fun. And if you feel like you want to do that better, let me know. So you can do products on a recurring basis, especially if they're consumable, or especially if there's like some kind of novel nature to them, like the Saint of the Month. The second thing you can have on a recurring basis, obviously, is services, memberships, retainers, that kind of thing. And then, the third thing you can have is advertising. That's not something you necessarily regularly make, but it is something that happens on a recurring basis. Obviously, you can set up donations to be recurring. So if you run a nonprofit or have a nonprofit arm of your company, you can have that sort of thing set up. And finally, digital products. So things like ongoing courses, things like, regularly published ebooks. So maybe you publish one book a month, that kind of thing. I'll go over this in a second. And the one I should have put on here is like just some kind of software product. So one of my clients is a numerologist and she has a digital calendar. So if you're into numerology and you use Google Calendar, you can buy a subscription to her calendar. I think it's $199 a month, and it automatically shows up in your Google Calendar and tells you, what your numerology thing is. So she had a physical calendar that she was trying to sell for a really long time, but the digital calendars have really took off. And I think, so what you want to do maybe you have something that you're doing physically that you could instead do digitally, and present as a recurring revenue product. So obviously the perks of a physical product is that, you can send the same things to everyone. So like, you can have multiple people, and, if you're doing a box from, like, oh, here's a box of stuff from, my hometown. Maybe someone in Fort Kent, Maine is going to say, we're going to do a Fort Kent box once a month. And we're going to curate a bunch of stuff from a bunch of Fort Kent products and into a box. You can send that same box to hundreds of people, and, that works out pretty well. And obviously you can sort of think about ways of curating it. Maybe you can partner with companies and get, hey, if you're buying 100 of something, you can probably get that at a discount. The cons, of course, are figuring out shipping. And this, I know, really trips people up. So if you're watching this and you want me to do a video about shipping, let me know. I can do that. I don't mind talking about how you figure out shipping. It's something I think that holds a lot of people back from doing the online thing. And really, it's not that bad. You're not going to screw things up irreparably by setting up shipping. So I was trying to look for an example of this, and I thought this was neat. The Spice Madam sends you a spice and recipe and a little bit of education every month of a different spice. So like, if you know someone who likes to cook, that's a really nice gift. It's consumable. It's like super affordable. And so there's lots of stuff like this out there. And that's not to say that you can put your own spin on what that thing would be. So I thought that was a good little example, but you can look at other ones. My friend Jen has a coffee company, and on their site, they sell coffee, and you can say, is this a one-time purchase? And you see there, it's kind of little, but like below the one-time purchase button, there's subscribe for X amount per week. So you can have coffee sent to you every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, and you can pick the quantity that you want to show up at your door, which I think is really smart. Kind of puts people in their mind, oh, if coffee is one thing I have to remember every single week to buy, and something like this can not only save me money, but take it off my list, great. And this is something that you can offer to your customers, that kind of convenience and letting them not think about it. So you might think, okay, I don't have any products. I don't sell products. No problem. You don't have to make or sell on an ongoing basis every single product that you're going to source. You can, merch, you can curate stuff, like I said, from other providers. You can do gift certificates. One of my friends is, she does tarot readings and Reiki. And so she's offering, a subscription service for that. Obviously, like I said, you don't have to create everything. You just have to kind of think of the idea and execute it well. And you can have people that do other parts of it well. So maybe you're like, oh, it'd be really nice to include this in my box. Well, you know what? Someone local probably does make really awesome candles, or someone local probably does make really awesome, slippers or something like that you want to include. And you can just source them that one time. So don't come up with the pressure of having to be like, oh, I have to be the person that makes everything, or I have to sell this on an ongoing basis. The idea with subscription is that, or special products, is that they're special, and so that happens only sometimes. Obviously, with services, in terms of recurring revenue, it's not any inventory you have to keep on hand, and pretty much, but obviously it becomes harder to scale because your time is, you can only multiply your time so much. So an example of a service-based product is my Inkerspace virtual membership. And we have, 8 a.m. accountability calls on the weekdays if anybody wants to join them. We have a weekly Tuesday lunch if people want to have lunch together. We do online professional development workshops. We have a Slack channel where we share stuff. and there's marketing opportunities obviously with among all of us. And so there's like, I didn't feel like remaking this image, but there's like 20-ish people, probably 12 of which are regular participants. So yeah, it's like a really nice way to have a community, and for me to have continued Anchor Space, especially during the pandemic. I thought this was interesting because I thought, okay, it's one thing if a co-working space offers a membership, or like, I don't know, or I don't know, or some business that already offers classes or something like that. But what are other? I was trying to think of like, what's a kind of business that you would not expect to offer a membership. So I found this nightclub in San Francisco, and they use basically Patreon, I believe, to do this. But basically what you can do is for X amount a month, you can have admission to online events. You can skip to the front of the line. I don't know if that applies during COVID, but basically they let you kind of do stuff at their nightclub on a regular basis and get special treatment if you're a member. And yeah, like, a couple of these involve drink tickets, but only the higher levels. Oh, for $60 a month, you get 2 drink tickets. I mean, that's, skip to the front of the line. Anyway, so think about the things maybe that don't necessarily cost you anything that you can package together. So letting someone go to the front of the line doesn't really cost your business anything. And if somebody asks, "Oh, hey, why did that person go to the front of the line?" You can say, "Oh, they're a member of our, of the DNA Lounge." So I thought that was an interesting way of like creating recurring revenue as a nightclub. I mean, nightclubs, I'm sure that you're kind of at the mercy of who shows up that particular day, right? But these guys are being proactive, and I kind of respect that. I think that's pretty neat. Obviously, advertising revenue. You can monetize content and it's passive, but obviously you're not going to make a ton of money. And let me just show you an example. So I have advertisements on one of my blogs, and that I took a screenshot of how much ad money that I made. So $8.88. That's right. I'm going to retire early, guys, on $8 a month. And as you see here, it got around 2,500 page views, 16 clicks. Just to give you an idea of like, this is a local blog. I think it probably gets between 15 and 20,000 total traffic, I think, throughout the year, which makes sense if you 2 times or 2.5 times 12 is, yeah, that's about that. So if you have a website that has good traffic and good content, you can monetize it and create recurring revenue through advertising. Again, it's not like a set amount or in particular necessarily a very large amount when you're starting, but yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. Obviously, donations are great. You might be looking at this and thinking, well, I'm a business, I can't really accept donations, but maybe you want to use donations as a way to get people involved. So maybe, for example, here at Anchor Space, something I've sort of been casually interested in but don't want to maintain is a 3D printer. I think it would be really neat to have one. I think it'd be really neat to offer classes in it. But, do I feel like shelling out, a few grand for a nice, like, commercial type printer that people could come in and use? And how would I maintain that? How would I buy supplies? Maybe I would have a campaign to get people involved where I would get them to do that. But obviously this makes more sense for a nonprofit. And if you're using things like donor management software or something like that, it's just something that you probably would want to integrate. So for example, most nonprofits have done this at this point. End of year appeals. I know that most nonprofits make their money between like December 25th and December 31st of any given year. But by allowing people to give a little bit of money every single month, that ensures that donation is going to come in and you don't have to be waiting on someone else's check. So most donation forms I've seen say like, okay, do you want to do this? Do you want to do an ongoing donation, of X amount per month? And, you'll get these benefits, or Y amount, you'll get these other benefits. So just consider, if you have donation software on your website, just consider seeing if you can have people turn on that recurring donation. And then the fifth one, which I think is something that a lot of small businesses don't feel comfortable developing, but might have ideas that they want to do, is the digital products thing. So, the idea that you make one thing and you sell it multiple times, or, you create things on a regular basis, that's where the recurring comes in. So, yeah, and obviously though, the one thing about digital products is, especially, after the whole 2020 thing, is that it's become a more competitive space. Probably if you're thinking about pandemic times last year around this, well, not around this time, maybe in March of last year, there was a lot of classes and things like that. And it was kind of exciting to think about going to them. And now, I don't know about you, but I think people are just feeling like, oh my God, there's so much going on online, and they feel like a little bit overwhelmed. So, you're trying to stand out in that crowd. So I'm going to skip this one. But basically the idea of thinking about like I said, my numerology lady with her digital calendar is an example of getting paid on an ongoing basis. The other thing I've seen done is if you're an artist or something like that, and you have a collection of things that you want to let people use, is you let people pay a monthly fee, and then they can use kind of anything in your content library. So I've seen people do it that way as well. So there's lots of ways to kind of think about the digital product thing, but the main idea being that it costs 5 times more apparently to acquire a new customer than to keep current ones. So I think that's why we're all kind of thinking about like, okay, I have my customers. How can I serve them in a way that they'll want to pay me on a recurring basis? And that's where the recurring revenue product comes in. And, 61%, I thought this was interesting, of small businesses report that more than half their revenue comes from repeat customers. So it makes sense to kind of turn this on. And, obviously there's a few decisions to be made. You got to just think about like what you want to offer. So do you want to look at your stuff and say, okay, I'm going to give people access to this, or I'm going to create this subscription box, something like that. And then you want to ask yourself, okay, am I going to try to do this on my own website? Can my own website handle this? Or do I have to use a third-party website? So let's say, for example, you wanted to do a subscription box, but you have a super old school website, and you look into it, and you talk to a web designer, and they like quote you thousands of dollars to redo it. Well, maybe you're just trying this idea out, right? Like you don't know if this is going to work or not. So like maybe you don't want to do the entire build out. So maybe you use some kind of third party. I believe CreateJoy is like basically a website where you can set up a subscription box. So maybe your URL would be createjoy.com/North Country subscription box or something. So don't let the technology stop you from doing it. A lot of things, you can have third-party software that will do it. So let's say that your website does not have online payment forms that can take recurring payment. Well, there's, there's Woo Forms, there's Jot Forms that for a monthly fee of between like $15 and $30 a month, you can take recurring payments. You can set up forms that take recurring payments. So instead of doing the whole build out, if you're trying it, try a third-party service and just see what's out there. A lot of times you can try something out for $15, $20, $30 a month. Try it for a few months. And if it's going really well and you want a better user experience, then you get, your web developer, your marketing friend to build you out something really fancy. But sometimes it's just important to test it, to test the concept first before you do that. So sometimes it can happen on your website. Sometimes you got to think about third-party software, but just don't stop the mechanism. Don't let the mechanism stop you from doing the thing, I guess. And finally, you got to price it right and market it, because people aren't necessarily going to know that you do it. You might be watching this and thinking, wow, Nicole, I didn't know you had a virtual membership. And I feel like I've been promoting it constantly. We started offering this back in March of 2020. So we've had this for almost a year. So if you're watching this and thinking, wow, I just learned about the Anchorspace virtual membership, that's where marketing can can really help. And obviously pricing it correctly for the marketplace. It's obviously you'll know what your costs are, for doing it, but looking around at similar products and how they're priced might give you an idea to do that as well. So I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. And then you got to give it time to work. Like if you don't have 100,000 subscribers in, 3 days, like it doesn't mean you're a giant failure. It just means that it hasn't had time to like work yet. So give it time to work. That's what I'm going to tell you. My friend who did the coffee stuff, she was like, I don't know how much she started with, but it wasn't 100 people for a while. So you got to sometimes just start the thing and know that you're going to start with, 10 or 20 customers for a while it builds up. And that's got to be okay. You can't give yourself that much pressure to make something work instantaneously. So I hope that like kind of puts in your mind thinking about your business or your nonprofit and thinking about how you can serve people on a recurring basis. And, if someone is giving you money every month, it's nice to give them something for it. I mean, a lot of us in particular with the nonprofits, I don't necessarily expect anything, but it is nice. It is nice to get offered something once in a while. And if you're just if you're a more creative person, or maybe you're a solopreneur, thinking about things like Patreon or, sort of creating content that people would consume and maybe pay for, or support you as an artist is kind of a cool thing. So think about your recurring revenue product. And if you watch this video and you decide to do one, can you please like either email me or come back and leave a comment or whatever, and just tell me when it's set up. So that way I can bring you in as an example when I talk about it, and hey, maybe I'll get you a customer or two. So if you want to, brainstorm about a recurring revenue product or something, hit me up. If you're in the upstate New York area and if you work with the SBDC in Canton, New York, where you do have these working groups coming up, and one of them is specifically creating a recurring revenue product. We're going to think about it, and we're going to execute the technology and price it and market it, just like I talked about in 2 slides ago. So also, and let me know what you think about the slide format. I can do more of those kind of presentations. I have tons of them because sometimes I get asked to speak in front of business groups and stuff, and I just like to have something like in front of the room while I talk. That way people aren't like super bored. And if they see something, I'm kind of a visual person myself, so sometimes seeing it is really helpful. I can do more of those, but so please consider recurring revenue product for your business. And if you have any questions, or if you have a topic you want me to cover, please leave a comment on this video, or you can just message me and ask me if it's a more personal question. And I'm always happy to have topics and ideas of things that you want me to cover. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Take care.